It's that time again. Time to rank stuff. Oh boy. And today we're ranking Multiverse of Madness Illuminati members. I'm sure you have some strong opinions on this as well. Now, who are the Illuminati? Well, Doctor Strange doesn't take them very seriously. Illumawati? Come on, man. In the comics, they're a pretty big deal, created as a secret United Nations of superheroes. Like in Civil War, remember that Steve Rogers didn't want to answer to the world's governments? Well, maybe superheroes should answer to themselves. That's what was decided in the comics. I mean, come on, in the MCU alone, in addition to the creation of Ultron, I think that the recent No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness are pretty darn good examples of the danger of superpowers unchecked. Now, in the comics, the group consisted of Namor, representing Atlantis, Tony Stark for the Avengers, who's pro-government and business, kind of like their liaison, or at least to understand how those groups think, Reed Richards, science expert, Black Bolt for the Inhumans, Professor X for mutants, and what do you know, Doctor Strange was on the team too, representing the mystical, aka non-science. They had everything covered. The first meeting took place in Wakanda, hosted by Black Panther, who was invited to join as well, but decided after the first meeting that he was not cool with them being self-appointed and a secret organization. But he didn't tell on them either. And they made some tough calls over a brief span. Brian Michael Bendis created them. They haven't been around forever. But it was revealed that they were the ones who shot Hulk into space. In the MCU, he made that call on his own. Maybe they're like, did he? But anyway, Professor X, I mean, who knows? I don't want to open this can of worms of like going back and retconning things that happened, unless it's to reveal that someone's a Skrull. But anyway, that's where that came from in the comics. And then at one point in the comics, they each protected an Infinity Stone, which is pretty cool. I like that. Now, eventually in the comics, the group disbanded because they couldn't even get along with themselves. Also, Hulk really kind of, when he came back, he was understandably pretty upset, and he kind of messed them up too. He sowed a lot of seeds of mistrust. Now, in Multiverse of Madness, the Illuminati of the 838 universe, 616 we learn is the MCU, of course, the designate of the main universe in Marvel Comics as well, 616. That's a very, if you read comics at all, you've heard the term 616. But the 838 Illuminati made the decision to kill their Doctor Strange and fellow member because he'd used the Darkhold and he had the black fingers to show for it, executing him on Titan with a single word of judgment from Black Bolt after they'd all defeated Thanos together. You think they would have just let everything go at that point, but no. And they never told their own universe the truth, which is why their Strange was remembered as a hero. That's the kind of lies and backroom dealings that the Illuminati does from their very big building headquarters. What are you guys doing there? Nothing. All right, anyway, this is really in the comics, the Illuminati did not have a headquarters. They would meet literally in secret back rooms. All right. Now, this is really the only other universe that Multiverse of Madness visits. I mean, they have brief stops in some other places, but they really only spend time here. And even this is pretty brief, quite frankly, with Marvel having decided that their No Way Home will not be the Multiverse of Madness, as you know, having seen the movie, but the upcoming Secret Wars. So this sequence has been stripped down significantly, not just with what you see, but what you don't see. A lot of the things that don't make sense in this movie is because things have been cut. The Ultron robots, who came up with those? So it was supposed to be the work of Ironmonger, which was potentially going to be Tom Cruise. They didn't just have Ultron robots walking around for nothing. Then multiple scoopers, including myself, had heard that Deadpool was supposed to show up in this sequence as well. I do hear, most recently, that this is kind of an audition for John Krasinski's Reed Richards, and if audiences react strongly enough to him, he could get the gig permanently. Doctor Strange 2's Rotten Tomatoes score ain't that great. Krasinski's like, that's not for me, thank you. But fans are rallying behind the movie. Some of you are really rallying behind this film. Marvel does have an impressive, coordinated fan effort. I've heard from a number of you who work at movie theaters that audiences are consistently reacting very strongly to John Krasinski's reveal. So it's not out of the woods just yet. Let's see what the cinema score is, and let's see what the box office looks like after a few weeks. Does this thing drop like a rock after opening weekend? Let's find out. Now, we know that Kevin Feige also has some decisions to make about the Fantastic Four upcoming movie because Jon Watts just recently left the film. Heck, Feige, I could see this, could even decide to give the gig to Krasinski in front of him behind the camera to maybe boost Multiverse of Madness's appeal, being like, hey, he's gonna be Reed Richards. You better go check it out now. History is being made, instead of this just being a cute little fun fan service cameo. So I think that's a card that Feige definitely could play. All right, let's rank them. It's time. And of course, as always, share your own rankings down below. And before we get started, I just want to say it was maddening how underpowered all these characters were. They should have been able to put up more of a fight. I didn't think it was cool that Wanda defeated them all so easily. I felt it was a huge missed opportunity for some iconic action sequences. To really see, particularly Reed Richards, for Pete's sake, let's see him in action. It was disappointing. I mean, Wanda could have won eventually. I'm not saying Wanda had to lose, but I mean, I'm sure even Wanda would be like, come on, guys, put up a fight. Let's give the audience what they came for. All right, number 1, John Krasinski as Reed Richards. I think he has to go first because of what I just said. This is a big deal. It's not only a fan dream come true, but it has potential lasting repercussions. This could be the beginning of something big. I don't think John Krasinski comes across very well in the role, to be honest with you. Here, his home, and maybe this is good. Maybe when he sees it, he'll be like, I must try harder. Because his hallmark as an actor, what he's known for is his kindness and compassion. He's such a swell guy. Well, Reed Richards is anything but. He's supposed to be cold and aloof, detached. Why do you think Sue Storm keeps going off with Namor? Because her husband's ignoring her. I mean, I can't even imagine John Krasinski doing that, can you? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of you love the idea of him in the role, but when you actually have to see it, is it a fit? Is it a good fit? Krasinski would have to act. I don't know if he's like that level of an actor, but maybe he could. I think he's really trying here, but he just doesn't do it. He doesn't go far enough. So maybe he sees it and goes, I must go farther. Also, we really didn't get to see him use his powers. He's killed so quickly. I couldn't believe it. It was really annoying. And why was he turned into spaghetti? That didn't make any sense either. He wasn't even stretched. He's stretchy. He's Mrs. Incredible, for those of you not familiar with his powers. And boy, Brad Bird really set the bar high in creatively using that power set. Anyway, and he didn't show off his intellect either. In fact, many of you pointed out he did something rather stupid. He literally tells the Scarlet Witch how to defeat Black Bolt. But John Krasinski is such a swell guy. I was going to say great actor, but I don't know if he's a great actor. You don't have to be a great actor to be a movie star, by the way. In fact, it's often to your disadvantage because people want a brand. And I love John Krasinski, and I think he's a great filmmaker. So I would be okay with giving him another crack at this, largely because I just don't want it to go to Peyton Reed. On that note, I did not love the 1960s joke that Doctor Strange made when he met Reed Richards saying, Fantastic Four, didn't you guys used to chart in the 60s? I'm like, whoa. I don't want Peyton Reed's Fantastic Four, which is his pitch, the 1960s, and I don't want a Mad Men MCU superhero movie. We've already gone back in time a bunch of times. Captain Marvel did it. Blade's going to go through time. I mean, I don't want to do it. I mean, also, where have they been for the whole? I mean, I'm sick and tired of the MCU having to come up with excuses for why you haven't seen these characters for so long. Did they sit on the sidelines too? Maybe they were lost in space. Maybe they were, the Lost in Space Netflix show. So good. If Fantastic Four is anything like that, that would be wonderful. And that's not dated. They made that modern, and it was fabulous. Maybe they were in a pocket dimension, quantum mania. You know, who knows? We'll see. I hear Reed Richards, even beyond this, is coming pretty soon. So, I mean, I guess I could be open to the idea, but I think it's very, very tricky to pull off. It was cool, though, when Christine said she worked for the Baxter Foundation. That was pretty neat. I liked that a lot. All right, 2. Patrick Stewart back as Professor X. You got to put him second. Who doesn't love to see the return of one of the stars of one of the first huge comic book movies? I mean, that's iconic right there. I'd heard in advance about them playing the theme from the 90s animated series when he came in. I wish I had known. But you know what? It's so subtle. I'm glad I did know so that I could hear it. Because it was like really muted. I was like, that should be blasting out of the speakers on his hover chair. And I really hated that hover chair, by the way. It was way too big. Like on Titan, it looked comical. They're like, Xavier, it's too big. And it doesn't even hover. it's a regular wheelchair, but no one can get anywhere close to you. And he's like, that's intentional. I hate all you guys. But I just think someone should have been like Xavier. I don't think hovercraft technology is there yet for a hover chair. You look ridiculous. And again, I hated how quickly and easily he was killed as well. On the astral plane, no less, where he should dominate. That's where he lives. All right, so anyway, it was very cool to see him again, though, and visiting the astral plane was a nice, unexpected touch, even if they didn't do anything with it. I was like, ooh, and then they had that little TV for, like, WandaVision, and that was, like, the good Wanda from that dimension, who wasn't doing anything to help, by the way. But anyway, I mean, she had her own power set. Why didn't she pitch in? All right, so whatever. All right, number 3. I thought that Xavier's astral plane outfit was pretty spiffy, though. It looked nice. All right, number 3, Lashana Lynch as Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel. That was the biggest reaction at my screening, my press screening. One woman just was so overjoyed to see this, and it was cool. I mean, I like this a lot because it reminds me of a really good What If episode. This fits the What If mold. What if Maria Rambeau had been the pilot that fateful day instead of Carol Danvers? It could easily have happened, and I can hear Jeffrey Wright telling us about it right now. But again, ridiculously underpowered. Her fight against Wanda was blink and you miss it. We saw the shots in the ad campaign, which Kevin Feige recently has spoken about, saying he was upset about how much they showed, and apparently he's lost the ability to control his own ad campaigns? That can't be true. He's so powerful. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I mean, it seems to have worked because they have a huge opening weekend, so we'll see what happens in the long run. But anyway, Maria is Air Force. Even when Wanda sucked all of her powers out, she couldn't put up a little bit of a fight, even without her powers. I mean, to get squashed by that falling statue. Get out of the way, Maria. All right, which leads, and then just her hand going limp. I was like, come on, she deserves better. Which leads to next, speaking of, this is so, What If, Hayley Atwell as Captain Carter in live action. What a massive disappointment. This made me actually a little angry. Because I was blown away, as many of us were, by the animated version of the character in What If. So this was like nowhere near that cool. The action scenes, horrible. We didn't even get to really see her in action. Whereas in the animated show, she had these incredibly cinematic fights with movement. It was almost, dance. It was so beautiful. Remember when she jumped over the thing with the moonlight? I mean, over the wall? I mean, that was incredible stuff. And then I was also very upset that she was physically she was not any bigger physically. That really annoyed me because that was, in my opinion, just lazy. Because on the What If animated series, see again, if you didn't watch What If, you're like, oh, whatever, it's Peggy Carter. You're like, no, but in What If, she got She-Hulked. That was a big part of what her transformation was. So to have her not be bigger here, as I said, is just lazy. Why didn't they spend the money to make her a little bit bigger? I mean, it was really frustrating. I also have to say, I did not like her saying, I can do this all day. I know that's a nod, of course, to Steve Rogers' classic lines, but I was like, Peggy, get your own lines. Come on. And then, of course, her death was super lame. I can't believe she got cut in half with her own shield. Embarrassing, but we didn't even get to see it. Because, of course, the movie had to be PG-13, so it happened off camera. I didn't like that. I did not like that at all. Which leaves last and definitely least, Anson Mount, his return as Black Bolt. Some of you have wagered, I think quite hilariously, that this was Feige's last FU to Jeff Loeb's TV division, to have Black Bolt come back here by the same actor and killed so easily and unceremoniously. The VFX on his exploded head was pretty awesome, though, and I'm glad we actually got to see it on camera. But as many of you pointed out, Wanda lifted her move against him right out of the Matrix with making his mouth disappear. Wanda was pretty quick on her feet, though. All right, my biggest problem, though, is that even though he was now wearing a comics-accurate suit, Anson Mount just doesn't have the regality of the Inhuman King from the comics. It's just, I think that with the exception of Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel, and I guess Patrick Stewart as Professor X, even though the chair looked wrong, everybody else, I didn't look at them and go, that's the character, which is what happens when, and I think one of the things that Marvel has done so well. But I looked here, I saw Anson Mount, and I did not feel that was Black Bolt. Even though he had the fork on his head, I was like, nice costume, not Black Bolt. All right, so and then finally there was Mordo, who was the one surviving member, and I think that's going to come back and bite 616's Doctor Strange in the butt, maybe in a future movie. By the way, Wanda was supposed to kill a Mordo in the movie as well, decapitating him early on in the film, but that was ultimately cut. A lot of you have been wondering where 616 Mordo was this whole movie, And that's probably what happened. He was going to get killed early on, because I just know it was a Mordo who was killed, but they took it out. And then there's just no explanation as to where Mordo is. So they really chopped up this movie. But you know what? Some of you really love it. So I guess, for those of you, it worked out. But for the rest of us, I think we're like, where's the rest of the movie? All right, so that's my ranking of Multiverse of Madness's Illuminati members. I'm curious to hear your rankings down below and what you thought of the sequence in the film. And what do you think of the Illuminati from the comics? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.